Hey everybody, welcome to Wands and Daggers. I'm David, this is my good friend Joe, and today Joe is going to tell me all about sunken cost fallacy. Joe, what's sunken cost fallacy?
Sunken cost fallacy, in terms of D&D at the very least, the longer and more work you put into something, the more you're going to want to continue working on it, even if it's not coming out. To give an example with what happened to me, when I was designing a dungeon, one of the rooms in there, I wanted to make a very specific to what was going on. So in this dungeon, two ghosts died trying to rob it. So they were there when the party came down. They introduced themselves because this place hasn't been explored for thousands of years, and they were ecstatic just to have people to talk to again. They had a little bit of control over like moving the dungeon around to try to confuse people, but instead they just laid out a path for the party. Essentially being their friends, knowing in full well, telling them at the end they're going to kill them. They have to, or else their souls will never be free. But they're having fun with it, and the party was having fun with them, talking to them, saying what happened, hearing their story of their life. And then, the room I was designing for it, I wanted to make specifically about one of the ghosts. And I wanted to do what I was calling at the moment Drake Ball, an entire game that I was adding based off of the ghost's history of what he loved to play, to where you would mount on drakes and play some sort of ball game with it. And oh my god, I spent so many hours designing this, and I could never get it to work. I could never get to a point where I could think, oh yes, now this my players will enjoy. They'll look at this and they'll have fun. But then I'll look, and then I kept looking back, and I was like, all right, well, hold on. It's almost there, right? Let's give it a few more hours of work. So I would literally be putting in hours on end of work and thinking, well, I'm almost there continuously, even though I knew I wasn't. It was just, I already spent 4 hours writing this part of the dungeon. Why should I give up now? And that's the big part of it, is looking at your workload and deciding, all right, this obviously isn't working. I need to cut this off before you get to the point that I did.
I definitely have done that a few times before. I've come up with mechanics I thought would be cool for my game, where I wanted to have a new way of having a certain type of combat, and I just kept trying to make the new form of combat work. And every time I tried it, it wasn't fun, but I was like, I'm so close. So I keep doing a new version of it. But you're right, you just keep doing it again and again. You're like, well, I've spent so many hours on it, I must be close, but you're not.
Yep, that's the entire thought process of the sunk cost fallacy. I've already spent X amount of time. I must be at the end soon. That's going to pay off, even though that's never going to come. Maybe it will, but typically when you're getting to these points, the amount of time you spent doing this is going to hinder everything else that you're planning. A general rule of thumb that I tend to use now when I'm planning and writing for D&D is I typically spend somewhere around 8 hours prepping for a single session. So I do a 1/8. If I'm spending over 1/8 of my time on a single mechanic, a single room, minus something like a boss room, a big climactic fight to where I want to spend the extra time designing, I need to cut wherever I am. I cut my losses there. I save the work that I did because I might go back to it later if I can think of a new angle for it, but I'm not going to keep trying to rework what I've already written.
It sounds like a lot of times what you need to be doing is maybe prioritizing what's important to you when you're prepping. If you're spending half of the time you do prepping on an encounter that's at most 1/8 of your session, you got your time priorities wrong.
Yep, and just being aware of that yourself to really focus on it, it will really help with your overall planning. It may even make it to where if you're on a time crunch, you can even cut back the amount of hours that you prep or move into prepping for your next session, allowing you to just stack that on and keep making better sessions in shorter time. Another use for the sunk cost fallacy is to put it on your players. Let them buy a mine. Let a prospector trick them into buying a dud mine, telling them that it's pretty much guaranteed to have diamonds in there. They're going to get their money back on that they invested, just 500 gold down to start. And there's at least 2,000 in there. A big part of the sunk cost fallacy is that they need to get at least double in profit for what they're putting in for them to be stuck on the thought of, well, it's worth it. So they buy 500 for the mine. Well, now they have to get workers for it. So they get a bunch of cheap labor to run it for a week, let's say, costing them another 100 gold. So they're 600 gold down, but they're going to get 2,000.
Yeah.
The mine ends up barren. They go back to the prospector. Prospector talks about how mining is a long process. You need to put more into it or you're not going to get what you want out of it. So they go back to it. It's another week, another 100 gold down. They find like a small handful of diamonds. Not even enough to cover the amount in work labor that they put. Only like 50 gold worth of diamonds. They go back to the prospector again, obviously angry and wanting their money back. The prospector can just turn around and go, look at that. You've got the start of it now. You're right there. This is what you see before you hit the big haul. So now they're expecting the big haul now. You've set them up for their own failure. They're going to probably go on at least 2 or 3 more weeks of spending hundreds of gold keeping that mine running. Maybe even increasing the amount of people working to try to get it faster. And it's just not going to come. And at this point, they're going to look at it and go, I'm 1,000 gold into this mine. The profit's 2,000. I at least want to make their money back. They're not going to be able to sell it. The prospector's gone all of a sudden.
Mm-hmm.
So they keep running the mine because they've got diamonds. It's obviously a mine. There's obviously some value to the mine. So they keep working at it for a payout that's never going to come. Or maybe you even do give them it. You give them to 2,000. But what they don't realize is that over the course of this time, they've probably spent like 2,500 running the mine to now get 2,000.
So it ended up costing them way too much, even though they did eventually make the profits they were expecting to make.
Yep. It can be a fun tangent to just kind of throw on your players to really see the world of not everyone's good and not everyone's going to give you the absolute facts of what's going on.
Well, and I imagine that in the future, if they ever do find that dirty prospector again, they'll have some words for him.
Maybe he comes back and tries to sell him another thing just to see if the players learn their lesson.
All right, well, that's it for Sunken Cost Fallacy. I've been David. This has been Joe. This has been Wands and Daggers, and we will see you